Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. This week, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said this in regards to the military and abortion.
Our policies, whether they're diversity, inclusion, and equity, or whether they're about transgender individuals who qualify physically and mentally to serve, to be able to do it with dignity, or whether it's about female service members, 1 in 5, or female family members being able to count on the kinds of health care and reproductive care specifically that they need to serve. That is a foundational, sacred obligation of military leaders across the river. I've seen it myself, and it matters because it says we're invested in you because you are being willing to invest in us. You're investing your life, your family's livelihood with us. We owe you that back in return. Abortion laws in this country that are now being passed are absolutely having an effect on their willingness to continue serving in uniform or to encourage or discourage, in this case, their spouses from continuing service. So if you don't think there's going to be a retention and a morale issue, think again, because it's already having that effect. You go where you're told. That's the way orders work. You go where you're assigned. You don't get to choose. And so what happens if you get assigned to a state like Alabama, which has a pretty restrictive abortion law in place, and you're concerned about your reproductive care? What do? Do you say no and get out? Well, some people may decide to do that. And what does that mean? That means we lose talent, important talent.
Now, this is such a twisted line of logic, almost trying to hold America's safety via the military hostage by saying we're not going to have it unless we allow abortions. And it just goes to show they'll use any excuse they can come up with, anything, in order to try to make abortion legal again. I can assure you that women not joining the military because of abortion is one of the least prominent reasons for people not wanting to sign up for the military. There's dozens of other things they could address, but that would have to tackle real issues, which, unfortunately, they don't desire to do. Issues like how every single recruiting ad is now pushing the LGBT agenda.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by 2 moms.
How they're lowering requirements, which almost makes it seem less professional. How this country doesn't take care of its veterans whatsoever. And people realize that. The fact that this country has gotten into endless ideological wars that we had no business participating in the first place, and still wants to do more, that we pride ourselves on being the world police, and both political parties have turned into warmongering machines, the neocon conservatives, and pretty much all of the modern Democrats. The fact that people already don't feel that this country cares about them, not their financial well-being, not their mental well-being, not their physical well-being. They are barely participating in society at all, barely getting jobs, barely starting families, barely getting involved in their communities. They're totally checking out. So why would anybody want to fight for a country that they feel treats them that way, that doesn't care about them? They don't. They don't. It's obvious. That's why they're not joining the military, is because if I don't even think this country cares about me, why would I want to fight and possibly die protecting that? You've created this hyper-individualistic society. So how can you be surprised when anybody wants to act with their own best interest in mind with no regard for this society or country as a whole? But to get back to the point, it's just bizarre. It's this weird emotional manipulation that they like to do, that this White House has been using as its main tactic. The left is very good at this. They're very good at naming things. They're very good at naming acts and movements to prey on your sympathies. And that's how they formulate their arguments, is a lot of times they'll play to the exception, like in this case. The exception is, oh, there's a small minority of women who won't join the military because they don't get the right to abortion no matter where they are. Totally unfettered. And then they build their whole case around that unlikeliest of events that invokes the strongest emotional reaction from people. And it's textbook for manipulation tactics, textbook modern politics, and I think people are starting to catch on that it's not really going to work anymore. As soon as the cat was out of the bag and people realized that the government as a whole, and especially this administration, doesn't particularly care about them, it's harder and harder to manipulate people into supporting your causes. But yeah, the military is facing a serious crisis as far as people not signing up. And we've seen other strong indicators of this. Recruitment rates are down by a serious margin. They can't make their goals. They haven't been able to make their goals month over month. And just recently, Biden administration called up 3,000 reserves, which tells us two things. One, we might possibly get into a conflict soon, which I really hope we don't. And two, we're desperate for people. And they're using that as an excuse to push other agendas, to piggyback off of a serious problem in order to push a not very serious problem, and actually push something that will be a problem. So hopefully people see through this and realize that this is just a moronic statement that was made this week, and that this White House in general keeps making statements like this, trying and grasping at straws to get their agenda pushed. But desperation is a good sign that the enemy's losing ground. So let's be thankful here, in some regard, for outlandish statements like these that are made almost weekly by this administration. But now that you've heard what I think, please let me know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.